Now, in our first story, residents of Asin North say no amount of lies will convince them to vote for the MPP in the by-elections. The residents were reacting to the sudden deployment of machines on road projects within the constituency.
Government machinery converging on the constituency with overnight developments like road constructions and upgrades. What will be the decider for the constituents?
We are not kids in this town. We know the level of development prior to the elections. They have neglected us for long. If the NDC presents Kwesi 100 times, we will vote for him 100 times. They have sat down until a by-election, and if they think this is the best time for road construction to start, we welcome it, but we will decide on the election day.
With the current nomenclature of the 8th Parliament, with the MPP holding 137 plus 1 independent majority seat and the NDC holding 136, Asin North will be very much different from Kumeu. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
Meanwhile, a senior lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University Institute of Research, Dr. Smart Sarfo, says James Kwesi is the best bet for the opposition NDC going into the Asin North by-elections.
Now, it is not a matter of doubt that Kwesi is contesting. I have insisted that he is the best bet for the NDC. Any new candidate that files on the ticket of the NDC would come at a disadvantage right from the word go. So Kwesi is their best bet, and I was glad to see him declare his intentions today to contest on the ticket of the NDC. I just want to urge the NDC to give him full support, both legal support for the possible legal cases before him, and also support to go. He is their best bet. It is a swing constituency, and the chances are 50-50. The MPP is counting on projects that were undertaken. Some were undertaken before the declaration of the vacancy, and then the obvious, that which has arisen as a result of the declaration of the vacancy. So let's see the projects, and then let's see whether the people would find sympathy for him and then retain him. Sympathy would be based on the person expressing same. It would be fine if Asin North finds it prudent to be.
Now, since Central Member of Parliament Kennedy Ohene Ejapon has assured his supporters of winning the primaries to lead the MPP into the 2024 general elections.
Campaign manager, Medase. Only Adofua Ukopike form no Emam. MC Sabri Ghana for Acheyache. Yewo Kumasi Ashanti region Eye Jumane Ubie Free Bisa. Dabe na mkofa forms. Dabe na mkofa forms. Ene de Adofo Ghana for forms ningi yakofa already. Ndi ebe fele. Ndi omo doubt to say Kene Japan Eye Jumamu obi. Ene de Mpenfose aberwayi epumakwem nti obia dwene NCP se Kene Japan so o contest na nyese oye adwuma e de amobi amishra
all the way all the way.
And of course, that was MPP flag bearer hopeful Kennedy Ejapon picking up his forms yesterday. Now, moving on, leadership of the agitated pensioner bondholder group and the Ministry of Finance are due for a crunch meeting today after they have resumed their picketing. Although government has pleaded with the pensioner bondholders to exercise patience as it mobilizes funds to settle the unpaid matured coupons, the group says it will continue to picket until the ministry pays them. We'll bring you that story shortly. Now, moving on to some more stories. Of course, we are live on social media on Facebook, 3news.com, as well as our Instagram and our TikTok as well as our Twitter pages. We're live on all our social media platforms. Moving on, be prepared to pay higher for electricity. That is because the upward review of electricity tariffs has kicked in. Now, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, has justified its decision to increase electricity tariffs by 18.36% for the second quarter of 2023. The PURC took the decision to approve new tariffs across the board for all consumer groups. This by far is the second time utility tariffs are moving up significantly in 2023 alone. Prior to this, utility tariffs went up by 27% in September 2022 and 29.96% in the last quarter of 2022. February 1, 2023, however, saw the first utility tariff increment for this year, with electricity going up by 29.96% and water by 8.3%. And now, for the second time, another increment is taking effect today, June 1, 2023. The cost of water services will see an upward adjustment for all consumer groups, whilst electricity and natural gas is also expected to go up by 18.36%. Now, according to the Public Utility Regulatory Commission, it took into consideration the cost of electricity, increased volume costs of chemicals for raw water treatment, the Ghana cedi to US dollar exchange rate, and inflation. Well, as part of the International Monetary Fund's conditionalities for the PURC, it will be conducting quarterly increments in utility tariffs. The Commission further explains the review is necessary to maintain the real value costs of supply of services and ensure that the companies do not under or over recover costs. It also assures value for money for consumers. Judith Awotritando, TV3 News. Now, some residents in Kumasi have been lamenting the increments in utility tariffs.
Shahid said his laundry business has been in survival mode since the last quarter of 2022, with low patronage due to high costs. The thought of closing the business has been lingering in his mind, but the young graduate has no option but to keep going.
The rate at which taxes are being increased in this country is very, very abnormal, and it doesn't help with the beginners. Sometimes I get discouraged. But looking at where I'm coming from, giving up is not the option now. So I have to change to suit the situation now, and then I'll pray for the best.
With an 18.36% increase in electricity, Shahid will now have to buy power at almost 500 cedis on monthly basis from the previous 400 cedis.
The only thing that I will do is just add it in the cost of sales, the cost of services. Yeah, that's the only thing that I can do now. But it's not going to be easy.
There are growing fears. Many businesses that rely solely on electricity may fold up with continuous increments in electricity tariff. For Muhammad Sulaimana, a fashion designer, remaining optimistic is the only way to survive. His cost of operation has already doubled even before the electricity tariff adjustments.
The government actually encourage youth who have completed tertiary like us to engage ourselves in entrepreneurship, which we are trying our best to do. But with this kind of increments, it's actually making us lose hope in succeeding in this entrepreneurship.
Running a business in Ghana is becoming frustrating, according to Alfred. The barber is worried about the ceaseless increase in operational costs due to hikes in electricity.
Already we are struggling to pay electricity bill, and now there is an increment. This will impact on us negatively, so if government can reduce the percentage, it will be appreciated.
It has become a daily struggle for most small businesses in the country as they battle with constant surge in prices of goods and services. For most business owners, adjusting their prices is the only way for them to stay afloat. For many business owners, they want government to put in place mechanism that will create a thriving environment for them so that it will prevent other businesses from folding up. Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3 News, Kumasi.
Now let's go back to the story on pensioner bondholders, where the leadership of the agitating group and the Ministry of Finance are due for a crunch meeting today after they have resumed their picketing.
Despite the rain this morning at the Finance Ministry, the pensioners say they will not relent until their demands are met.
And help us to resist oppressors through with all our will and might forevermore. And help us to resist oppressors through with all our will and might forevermore.
But the Deputy Finance Minister, Abnosi Asare, implored the pensioners to temporarily suspend their protests while government engages the Bank of Ghana to fulfill their obligations.
I sincerely understand and appreciate where you are coming from. This has never happened, where coupons are ready for payment or are due for payment and government has refused to pay. But currently, we all know the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And I'll plead with you, let's sit and clear the five, and then we'll see the way forward. So respectfully, let's meet tomorrow, discuss this and look at the long-term payment for the principal. We were given the coupons that were outstanding that we needed to pay. And then we are in talks with Bank of Ghana. Then I believe that from Monday, you would see some payments being reflected.
The convener of the pensioners, Dr. Edu Ananienchi, says the picketing will continue.
Well, we are coming tomorrow for that 1 hour. But within that 1 hour, we will meet with the ministry. They suggested that they will meet with us to decide on the payment of the principal. The first principal is 101 days in arrears now. Somebody's money that he's using for investment. You are keeping it. And we have said we will demand interest. Our plan is that we are meeting only on Thursdays and Friday. Every week we will give the government opportunity to pay what is due.
The government is in arrears of 4 outstanding coupons and 4 outstanding principals to be paid to these pensioners, with a 4th due today.
Now, on the Labour front, organised Labour is to review its position to allow the government to include its pension funds in the debt restructuring programme after a closed-door meeting with the Finance Ministry. Spokesperson for Organised Labour and Secretary General of the TUC, Dr. Yauba, disclosed this to the Labour correspondent Daniel Opoku after the meeting.
The Ministry of Finance and the Minister for Employment was also here. And they have made a very thorough presentation on the DDEP, including a new offer that they have presented. So now we as Organised Labour are going to consider whatever they have presented, and then we will take a decision. They are trying to present something which is superior to what we rejected, but we need further information, and that further information has to do with what they call exchange memorandum. That was not presented, but our decision was that we need further information, especially the details of the exchange memorandum of the new offer, and then we can take it from there.
Now, on to some more stories. Savannah Regional Minister Said Muhazu Jibril has regretted the continuous infighting in the northern sector, calling for all hands on deck to unite the people for development.
Briefing by my regional police commander is that one person, unfortunately, sadly, lost his life this morning because of this whole uncalled for war between Gunjes and Mampusis. I think it is high time we as Northerners know that this is not helping us. It is rather drilling the development in this part of our world, where poverty is pronounced, that we should be fighting poverty instead of fighting ourselves over just a little piece of land. It's just not good for our image as Northerners.
In a related development, 3 nomadic herdsmen were hospitalized after a mob attacked and set their settlement ablaze over an alleged raping of a pregnant woman at Binaba in the Boko West district of the Upper East region. Stories related to 3 nomadic herdsmen who were hospitalized after a mob attacked and set their settlements ablaze over an alleged raping of a pregnant woman at Binaba in the Boko West district of the Upper East region. Now, if poultry production is effectively utilized and a cure for the deadly, highly pathogenic avian influenza is discovered, it has the potential to provide over 10 million district employments in Africa. Now, the assertion was made at the opening of a 3-day consultative workshop on how to control the disease in West Africa.
Africa produces only 4% of the world's poultry products despite the industry boom. This is blamed largely on the lack of reliable information, enforcement of existing laws and regulations, and disease surveillance and reporting.
Where our collective goal is to seek solutions that minimize the risk and the spread of highly pathogenic avian influenza in ECOWAS regions and other African regions as well.
The Accra Consultative Workshop is on the control of highly pathogenic avian influenza, the HPAI, in West Africa.
As we need to address key strategic issues of the highly pathogenic avian influenza, which is not only the worst threat to the poultry of the West Africa, but it also poses public health risk because of its zoonotic potential.
The workshop attracted veterinary officers from all 15 ECOWAS countries and representatives from the Central and Southern African regions.
This will serve as an important ingredient for early warning systems to track and monitor cases of HPAI and to mitigate their spread to larger geographic areas.
Chairman of the Veterinary Council of Ghana, Dr. Jonathan Amachi Enim, said Ghana has instituted actions to ensure the reduction in the contact rate amongst domestic birds across the country.
Ghana's preventive and control measures of the avian influenza with ECOWAS include the cross-border meetings of ECOWAS chief veterinary officers on APAI, notification of AI outbreaks to neighboring countries, and restriction of movement of poultry and poultry products across borders during outbreaks.
The meeting is seeking to find a way to minimize the risk of HPAI and its spread within the ECOWAS region.
Now, on the international front, Zimbabwe's parliament has voted in favor of a controversial bill to punish citizens for unpatriotic acts, including imposing heavy fines or even the death penalty on them. Critics have called it a dark day for democracy. Now, the so-called Patriot Clause of the Criminal Law Act targets those who harm the national interests of Zimbabwe. In the most extreme cases, violators run the risk of up to 20 years in prison. The law was approved just hours after the government ended months of uncertainty and announced nationwide elections for August 23. Now, analysts are bracing for a tense ballot in a country where discontent at entrenched poverty, power cuts and other shortages runs deep. And that's all for the 6 a.m. news here on TV3.